Hello, I'm Arthur Black. Welcome to Weird Homes, a show that looks at the most unusual and bizarre homes in North America. You know, gardens grow in the weirdest places, even on a roof. Green thumb types will sow their seeds wherever they can, whether they're greening up a city or brushing back the forest. Take Cougar Annie, a stubborn pioneer woman who spent 70 years wrestling with the wilderness, and all to grow a garden. Then there's Nancy Goldman. Nancy is an urban dumpster diver, but you'd never guess it from her yard. Gardens, they're chock full of secrets. Let's take a look. Tucked away in the west coast rainforest of Vancouver Island is a hidden treasure of wild and wondrous beauty. Peter Buckland has lived here for 12 years, carving a home out of this rugged wilderness with his own hands. He is drawn to this wild coast not just by its beauty and isolation, but by a spirit that still resonates in the woods, in the soil, and in the air itself. Peter's home is created from ancient trees he finds washed up on the beach or felled centuries ago.
You'll notice it's a tree that has been cut down perhaps 500 years ago, a cedar tree by the native people. Now it's an entrance around a building which was designed specifically because the stump happened to be here. So let's go in. Okay, this room features split cedar boards. Cedar set in sand on the floor, and a stove made of truck rims that are welded together with a sliding steel spar door that allows the light to flicker off the oil on the flat grain shakes. And over here, the entrance to these two side rooms is made from cedar bark, hand-woven by one of the Hesquit elders. Well, all the wood in the house is milled right here with old growth cedar on the property or from the beach.
Native and natural imagery is organically integrated into the buildings that dot Peter's property. They are reverent, beautiful, and practical.
Well, the woodshed is a design of an eagle. Eagles will occasionally go to a freshwater source and preen themselves with the fresh water. And then they'll hang out their wings to dry, much like a cormorant. It's a perfect shed roof. You might, if you see one, you can envision it being a shed, and the eagle itself, in this case, is drying the wood underneath it.
Peter lives here alone, except for his cat. Despite the isolation and long periods of unrelenting rain, he likes it that way.
I never do get lonely, but you do feel alone in the winter. I think the word is bushed. So in the winter, I'm lucky to survive more than a 2 weeks stint without going out for supplies or making some reason to go out. But in the summer, it's quite the opposite. You never want to go out.
But maybe the real reason Peter never feels alone is the fact that he isn't. Not really, because Peter is living with the memory and the legacy of one of Canada's greatest pioneer women, Annie Ray Arthur. Or Cougar Annie, as she came to be called. Annie loved the rugged beauty of the West Coast, and she was determined to add something of herself to it. Single-handedly, she created one of the most wonderful gardens on Earth. This was her land, and here was where she planted her garden. That's why Peter came here, and that's why he has stayed. Part of what fascinates Peter so much is uncovering her garden secrets, layer by layer. Cougar Annie arrived at Boat Basin in 1915. She came up the coast on the Princess Mackinac, the coastal freighter, and landed 6 miles away at the native village with her husband Willie, 2 children, and a cow that was tethered upside down so he wouldn't rock the boat. She was 27 at the time. From the very beginning, life was hard, and her husband wasn't really up to the task. But Annie took to it like an eagle to rain, and just as fierce, shooting over 70 cougars that came into her garden.
Cougar Annie eked out a living through basically her trap line and the bounties she got for cougars. That, together with the little nursery business she had, was enough to keep her family going here.
Later on, Annie convinced the powers that be to open a post office in Boat Basin by manipulating the census figures. 20 years after their arrival, her husband Willie drowned in the harbor. Annie, as ever, was pragmatic. She still needed a man around to do the physical labor. For years, she'd been selling her dahlia seeds in newspapers far to the east. And now she found a new use for them.
She would advertise through the personal columns for companion objective matrimony. She was able successfully to do that for the next 3 husbands. She is incidentally rumored to have shot one of them, but that's only just a rumor.
But Peter paid little mind to the rumors. When he came here over 30 years ago, he was fascinated with this formidable woman of the wilderness. It was her presence that both drew him here and kept him here.
It was Easter Sunday, 1969, and I was introduced to Cougar Annie at that time by the prospector I came with. She was a fascinating woman, and the area is fascinating itself, so I came back regularly after that visit every month at least for the next 20 years.
In 1979, the last man in Annie's life, her son Frank, drowned in the harbor, and she looked to Peter as the next man in her life. Platonic, of course, but ever practical.
It was almost immediately that Cougar Annie began to work me over to acquire the property and to provide caretakers which will assist her. She was 91 at the time and not likely to get her 5th husband by advertising, so she signed me up as the next best thing.
Although Cougar Annie stood only 5 feet tall, she had hands stronger than most men's. She worked every day in the garden when she wasn't working her traps, and no small varmint was safe from them. Annie had little time for sentimentality. She made chicken feed out of the stellar jays that invaded her garden, and if the truth be told, when times were tough, she ate them too. But luckily for the birds, Peter is not so inclined.
This is the Stellar's jay who entered the house through an open door, about to be released again.
Deep in the heart of the garden, much evidence of Cougar Annie's harsh life and her resilience remains.
Well, behind me is Cougar Annie's house. It was built in 1921. When she first came here in 1915, she had a log cabin ready for her, built by another settler in the region, who had advised her that this particular flat area up where the garden is would make an excellent garden.
The garden consists of a 5-acre clearing, crisscrossed with over 2 kilometers of meandering pathways and dotted with outbuildings that once housed goats and chickens. The forest has tried to reclaim the garden, but thanks to Peter's help, Annie's legacy stubbornly clings to the soil, revealing itself in wondrous ways. Amazed visitors travel to this remote area just to marvel at her work.
Everything here has to survive. If it doesn't make it on its own, something else will take over. So it's always evolving a bit. Plants are emerging at all times. Every year there's a few new surprises, stuff that might have been dormant for 30 or 40 years.
As more and more visitors visit the garden, Peter realizes that his lifestyle is going to change a bit, but he also knows that if this place is to survive, it's a sacrifice he's willing to make.
So these are some of her prized rhododendrons. And that white rhododendron there, the experts feel could be an original species. Maybe that's where she lynched one of her husbands. But that gate there was the gateway to one of her trap lines.
His original intention was to restore just some of the garden. But as time went on, the vision has grown, almost matching the imagination of Annie herself.
So this area here, you'll see is very finely textured. We call this the Monet zone.
When Peter Buckland first thought of restoring Cougar Annie's garden, he thought he would do just a little of it, just enough to reveal its presence. But that soon changed.
I realized that it actually might be able to accomplish the full recovery of the 5 acres. And I realized that had I achieved that, I'd probably be out of energy and the whole thing would revert back to where it came.
In order to preserve Cougar Annie's garden for future generations, Peter created the Boat Basin Foundation. He'll donate the garden to be used for botanical education, a concept of which Annie would heartily approve.
In the early days, when they buried people in the wilderness, they'd cover the gravesite with rocks so the animals wouldn't dig it up. In this grave, we believe the original husband plus another husband, the one she is rumored to have shot. 2 infants are in there that died in their first weeks, and a son who was about 15 who drowned in the harbor.
But sadly, Annie herself was not laid to rest here. Her family, afraid to leave her alone, moved her back to civilization. When she died at the age of 97, she was cremated and her ashes scattered from the air over the garden she loved.
At the time I was living in the garden. So the story goes, I was out having tea one day and Cougar Annie dropped in.
And now she's here forever. Cougar Annie's life was one of fierce independence, lived on her own terms. And even Peter admits she's a pretty tough act to follow.
Well, I've been a bachelor all my life, but not necessarily by design. Very difficult for most people, though, to stay in a place like this without the social aspects that they normally would get in the city. And I think to have a permanent lady friend here would have to be a fairly rare, different one. And when you pass through 60, which I am now, the odds of that happening get slimmer and slimmer.
Cougar Annie's garden remains one of the world's most unique hidden treasures, lovingly tended by a man smitten by both the woman and the legend.
Well, the uniqueness of the garden basically is probably the woman that created it, the struggle that went into its creation, and the fact that it has survived. There were hundreds of settlers attempting to do the same thing on the coast, but the coast beat them all except for Cougar Annie.
The city of Portland, Oregon has plenty to brag about. Spectacular mountain vistas, a thriving art scene, even cement. But diving? You bet. Nancy Goldman lives and dives in Portland. And here's her hands-down favorite diving spot, a city dumpster. What's a nice girl like Nancy doing in a dive like this? Looking for ornaments to take home to her garden, of course. And we're not talking about patio furniture or pink flamingos here.
Wheelbarrows are another thing I like to collect from dumpsters. I have probably 3 or 4. This year I planted it with vegetables.
But there's way more than vegetables planted in Nancy's garden. She's got crops coming up that you won't find in any seed catalog. Such as, well, how about some nice tender croquet mallets? Or perhaps a hearty row of mason's trowels? Sounds weird. Well, heck, it is weird. But Nancy says it's a concept that her visitors really seem to dig.
People really like it. I think they feel comfortable in the garden. It's not threatening in any way, and it makes them chuckle, and they get ideas. I mean, some people almost swoon. They just love it.
You never know what's going to pop up in Nancy's garden, or in Nancy's head.
I look at a lot of magazines. I go to gardens all over the world. I dream them up. I imagine them. You know, I'll come out and I'll think, well, you know, I need something in that space, and find out what I have and put it in there.
They say Mother Nature abhors a vacuum, but apparently she has no problem with typewriters or even bicycles.
I don't know if you can see the bike in there because it's getting covered with ivy, but that's the whole point.
Nancy's garden is wild, but fruitful too. It yields bumper crops of everything from sweet corn to pampered puddy tats. Speaking of pampered, here comes
Nancy.
Nancy's hubby, Cliff.
Hey, hi, Cliff.
Tough day in the links, Cliff?
Okay.
I finally got the rhythm down.
Oh,
Hey,
God.
no, really. I mean, listen. I mow your lawn, and so you got to look at my swing.
Okay. I'll look
look,
at your swing.
I finally, like, 1, 2, wait.
Cliff is forever practicing his swing, one way or another,
I'm just trying to make
but
it
he's also
shape.
available for consultation. And Nancy? Well, the garden is her baby,
What?
and she tends to it, whether she's working with metal or hanging out the laundry. In fact, sometimes she does them both at once.
Well, about the clothes, I got the idea because once the rebar was there, I thought, well, that looks like a clothesline to me. It's actually supposed to be a grape arbor, and the new grapes are growing there, but they're not big enough. So before the grapes fill in, I designed these clothes, metal clothes, to hang on it.
In fact, I've always asked for heavy starch on my shirts, and you probably saw what she does with those. She still does my laundry.
Wait a second, Cliff. Didn't you say you were in charge of mowing the lawn?
You may have noticed the grass sculpturing in the back. That was what I could. That's what I did. It was. I had some kind of a nightmare the night before, and I took it out on the lawn.
And this looks like revenge of the lawn. But actually, it's part of Nancy's grand plan.
I probably have about 8 old lawnmowers. And they're great for plants to grow on, and they're just great colors and interesting structure in the garden.
Nancy's secret garden holds surprises behind every
In
plant.
this corner is the tea kettle fountain, a couple mosaic birdhouses, another great old lawnmower, and this one is actually has historical significance. On it, it says NRA, which is for the National Recovery Act during the Roosevelt era. So this is an oldie and a goodie. And a friend brought that to me.
She's got another surprise over here, a meander down memory lane.
Since I'm from the Midwest, in the Midwest, they always have wonderful porches in the front, and I don't really have a porch. I just have a small landing area in the front porch. So I had my brother-in-law build this. Actually, it's called the parlor. So we framed in a screen door that goes nowhere, a nice, comfortable furniture. Of course, you have to have, bugs, a porch window with a little curtain on it.
This secret garden has a nook or a cranny for just about anything you can imagine. Or more important, that Nancy Goldman can imagine. She's even reserved spots for retired and broken down step ladders.
I like to collect old ladders because I think they look great in the garden, and what else can you do with an old ladder? You know, it's just actually a piece of junk. But I planted a drawer of grass. Each year I plant a new drawer of grass. I always spray paint the drawer. And when I have open gardens, I put this out in the front with a sign saying the front lawn, because I have no lawn in the front.
What a garden! Part fantasy, part retirement home for relics of another age, and all of it magic.
In this area, I have this great pot with water in it, and people always wonder how I can get that rock to float. But, you know, it's just magic. That's just the way it happens. I don't know. Pots, these are all containers. And that's a great way to fill up a space. And I've added little weird things in there, like my dog, Pasha. Prince Pasha of Portland. Yes, sweetheart. He loves the garden. Very good boy. He's never heard anything in the garden. This better not be the first day.
Prince Pasha won't mess with a local landmark, and the locals don't chuck out their trash without checking with Nancy.
My mom found this in her basement, and she was wondering if you needed it for anything in the garden. We were just going to throw it away.
I think it's great, Eric. It's perfect. Should we go back and see if we can get in there?
Let's go.
Can you help me?
Oh, I got it.
Get it up over here, Eric, on this. But we
I'm
could,
gonna wrap it in there.
oh, chic. Very nice.
Well, hey, what's a garden without a chandelier? It's not as if it's gonna look out of place in a hideaway like this. Why, there's even a brand new crop of croquet balls bursting out of the ground. And that's not all.
That's my new mosaic bowling ball. Wonderful piece of mosaic art. Always wanted to do a bowling ball. It's not easy to do. You have to do it in sections, like a third of it over 3 days. But it turned out very good. Very nice. Hard to bowl with it, but.
Obviously, Nancy Goldman and Prince Pasha are exactly where they want to be. But Cliff? He goes out to play 18 holes. He has no idea what he'll see when he gets home. What's your secret, Cliff?
I knew when I met her she was weird, and this proves it. I talked to my attorney today, by the way, and there's a lot of good there's good grounds to get the hell out of here, by the way.
Good grounds.
Good grounds, yeah.
It's a long day for Nancy, trolling through dumpsters in the morning, arranging her treasures in the afternoon.
I'm just gonna stay here and you guys just go on and do some dumpster diving or whatever, because it's really nice down here right now. I'll see you later. Catch up on my garden reading.
Sweet dreams, Nancy. And so long, Peter. Thanks for letting us in on your incredible secret gardens. You know the best thing about having your front lawn in a drawer? You get to cut the grass with scissors. I'm Arthur Black. Hope you enjoyed Weird Homes. We'll see you next time.